What's going on? This is Big G from G Riders, and welcome to another episode of Testing Rides. Today, I'm going to be testing out the 2017 Nissan Altima 3.5 SL. Nissan Altima 3.5 SL. So this car has been out for a couple years now. This body style was originally introduced in 2013, and 2016 was the refresh year. So they made this car look like, in the refresh year, they made this car look more like the other Nissan products, giving it the boomerang kind of shaped grille, like the rest of Nissan's kind of introduced with the Rogue and the Maxima and all those other cars. They gave the Altima that same face. So, and I think the car looks okay, but it's a little boring. But you know, it's a mid-size sedan. It doesn't need to be super exciting, or does it? Anyway, so this is the 2017 Nissan Altima 3.5 SL. So this one comes with the 3.5 liter V6. It's the VQ35, and it makes 270 horsepower and 251 foot-pounds of torque. Because this one is the top of the line SL with like the leather seats and the V6 and the bigger wheels, there's some weighs in at an average 34, almost 3,500 pounds. But since this car has a good amount of horsepower, a good amount of torque, it goes 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds, which is pretty good for a mid-size sedan. Most mid-size sedans are quite slow. But this, of course, is the big engine model, so they got to make it kind of quick. So, because it has the V6 engine, it gets a reasonable 22 in the city and 33 out on the highway, which, again, that's very reasonable considering the horsepower and torque that this car has. So, how much does this car cost? So the Nissan Altima starts at about $19,000-$20,000, and that's for the base model S that has the 2.5 liter inline 4-cylinder that, you know, makes like 170 horsepower and gets 40 miles per gallon on the highway, and that was like $20,000. But this one, since this one is a top of the line 3.5 SL, this one costs about $33,000. This is the top of the range Nissan Altima. There's only like one package that you can get on there, and it adds some more safety features and some USB ports in the back, and it's like $1,200 or something like that. But for the most part, this car is top of the line. So this car comes with a lot of stuff for the $33,000. First of all, it comes with the V6 with 270 horsepower, and it also comes with, you know, backup camera, front and rear parking sensors, navigation, Bose sound system, the sunroof, the leather seats, heated steering wheel, heated seats, automatic climate control, the whole nine. So that's not bad considering this car is only $33,000. I know there's a lot of other mid-size sedans that comes with all that stuff that costs more, which is kind of ridiculous. But Nissan is definitely bringing some very good value for the money, considering all of its other competition. But all of its competition that makes this type of horsepower, they're a little expensive. Honestly, a lot of its competition doesn't make this type of horsepower. And the one question that you kind of got to answer is, do you really need to get the Maxima? Because the Maxima is like the little bit bigger sedan version of this car that comes with the same engine, and you know, it's called the 4-door sports car. But is it really necessary? Because is it really necessary? Let's stop and take a look at the interior. I'll show you around the car, see just kind of a quick overview of it, and then let's come back on the road and see how it drives. And we're trying to talk about how this kind of drives compared to a Maxima. Let's take a look at the inside of the Nissan Altima. All right, you join me on the inside of the Nissan Altima. The Nissan Altima is not a new car. It's been out for a couple years now, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about the interior, but I'm just going to talk about a couple things that I like and a couple things that I don't like. Two things that I like. I love these big paddle shifters, even though this is a CVT. These still look really nice for the interior. And honestly, for the price of this car, I like how the interior is. I like the quality of the interior is not too bad at all. Like, you got a couple of cheap plastics. Like, you got a couple got there around the navigation screen here and over here on the doors. But overall, everything does not look too bad. This definitely feels like kind of a $30,000 car, which is kind of what it is. So that's not too bad. I like the trim. I like the trim that's throughout the cabin. This weird little, I don't know, whatever material this is or whatever pattern this is. I like it. It's definitely a good touch. It's kind of nice to see that, you know, definitely over your fake wood and stuff like that. So I definitely like that. The screen is a decent size, but the only thing that I wish it did have was like the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto compatibility, which is, you know, cars need to have that nowadays to be a lot more competitive. And the seats in this car, oh my God, these seats are so comfortable. Like, these are Nissan's zero gravity seats or whatever, and they're probably one of the most comfortable seats of any midsize sedan on the market. And I'm like that Nissan is finally starting to kind of integrate that into all their cars. The Altima was the pioneer car that they tried to test these in, and they're great seats, and I love them. And you know, actually, Nissan's / Infinity's leather, well, more Nissan. The leather is actually really nice. Like, this car has about close to 20,000 miles on it, and it's been driven a lot by a lot of different people, and the leather's holding up really well. Like, there's no cracks, there's no even wear on the car, which is pretty nice. Same with the rear seats too. But overall, the interior of the Nissan Altima is really nice, and it's still definitely probably one of the nicer interiors for the midsize car class, especially for the price range. Alright, here's the back seat. Back seat is decently spacious, maintains the same quality as the front seat. That's where I drive, and I probably could fit behind myself, but I'm not getting back there. This Altima has a pretty decent back seats for the size. This much room is about average. It's not above average, not below average, it's about average, which is a good thing. The trunk is huge. The trunk could fit about probably 2 big luggages and 2 smaller luggages, like carry-on type of size, and maybe more. This trunk is pretty big. Again, this is pretty average for this class, and you know, being average is not a bad thing either. So, we're back. So how does this car drive? This car drives really nice for a midsize sedan. Like, this car handles actually a little bit like a Maxima. It handles like a Maxima with softer suspension, kind of basically what this car is. So this car is very, very comfortable on the road. When you're just cruising along the highway at 60 miles an hour, just chilling, this car is very quiet and composed, and it just goes about its business with no drama at all. And then the second that you put it in the sport mode and put it into the manual mode and start going around the corners a little bit faster, this car wakes up quite a bit. Like, it actually handles way better than I thought it would. So I'm dropping a couple gears in a little CVT here. And like, I'm about to go around these corners here. This thing handles really, really nice. Like, I know the Maxima probably is a lot stiffer than this around the corners, but wow. Like, this is supposed to be the boring mid-size sedan, and it handles almost like the Maxima. Honestly, only thing you need to do to make it handle like a Maxima is maybe lower it a little bit. But that's about it. That's all this car would need. The steering is very precise, and it's actually not too dull and boring at all. The force tail V8-toned one is boring and dull, but the V6 one, they added a little bit more feel to it, which I really like, and I think it's a great touch to this car. The suspension is very compliant. There's not too much body roll when you go around the corners hard, and it handles fantastically. And this car has the smoothest V6 that I've ever driven in any car. It's even smoother than the V6 that's kind of found in the Infiniti products. Like, you put your foot down and you don't even know how fast you're going until you look down at the speedometer. It's crazy the way this car pulls and the way this car handles and acts when you're under hard acceleration. You don't even know the car is going that fast. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty ridiculous. And Nissan is doing a great job masking kind of how fast you're really going. It can also be a little dangerous too, because you could be going along at 60, 70 miles an hour and don't even notice it, and you're in the 45 zone. So that's the only kind of interesting thing about that. But for the most part, this car is pretty nice, pretty excellent, pretty smooth, it's actually pretty luxurious too. Like I said before, you got a couple cheap plastics in this car, but would expect for $30,000. This is a great $30,000 car. So one thing I wanted to touch on a little bit is the CVT programming. So all car enthusiasts, we all collectively hate CVTs. But Nissan has been making these CVTs, putting CVTs in their cars for over 10 years now, and I can admit the early CVTs sucked because they didn't have the logic together. But these new ones in the 2017 models, they kind of programmed it like a 7-speed transmission. So when you downshift, it actually feels like you're actually downshifting in the transmission. And then I'm forward here. You see how it's shifting gears like it's a transmission. It's nuts. You kind of gotta ask the question: do you really need to buy a Nissan Maxima to have a lot of fun? And the short answer to that for me is no. There are a couple things that the Maxima does better than the V6 Altima, but for the most part, they drive almost the same and they got similar acceleration. Yes, the Maxima has about 30 more horsepower, and more torque, but it's also a lot bigger and a lot wider than this car is, and this is like a more usable car than the Maxima. Like, the Maxima's backseat is really sloped and really aggressive. It's like like that. It's really sharp and really angular and really aggressive, but you don't exactly really, like, most people who are buying sedans, can't really use that. And this car, this Altima V6, is kind of the best medium between the two, because it gives you the power and some of the handling characteristics of the Maxima and a little bit of the look. Honestly, I think the car looks a little bit boring, because I mean, it's a family sedan, but it gives you the driving experience, the power, the torque, and some of the handling. And then you also get your basic Altima. Your basic Altima practicality. Like, this car has a big back seat, it has a big trunk. I can actually fit in the back seat of an Altima, and the Maxima I can't do it because I'll be sitting like that because the rear is so sloped. But this car offers you both utility, power, and performance. And for that, honestly, my opinion, I would walk into the Nissan dealership thinking I'm gonna buy a Maxima and end up buying a V6 Altima. They do have a sporty V6 Altima called the SR, so I'm curious to see how that drives. I bet that handles a little more like the Maxima than this does. But for the most part, this regular SL version is pretty good. I highly recommend this car if you're looking for a midsize sedan. If you like this video, hit me with the thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and keep riding with me. Thanks for watching.